Planning Commission meeting of December 12th, 2024 order. First item of business is to approve the minutes from the November 14th, 2024 meeting. The minutes are included in our packet. If there are, ask for a motion in a second, and any changes and corrections, we have a motion in a second.
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Are there any questions or comments or corrections that need to be made to the November 14th minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes of the November 14th meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we were talking a little bit up there, we might be sorry if we do this, but typically this portion of the open forum is for action items, but if there's anyone else here that wants to participate in an open forum regarding something not on the agenda this evening, and you don't want to hang around, because we'll probably spend some time on the short-term rental proposed ordinance that is later on the agenda. It's your opportunity to do so.
There is Mike Kelly.
Can you spell your last name for me?
Kelly.
Okay.
President of Engr Speedway, 1931 Creek River. Thanks for having us and adjusting the agenda so we can not. So, the past 3 years, been working together to save the racetrack. Speedway's big landmark in town. I know everybody wants to see it stay. I really appreciate planning commission continuing to stand up and help us out, trying to see this thing through. Really hate to see PR come in and try and bully you guys, bully us, try and make a retention pond where the landmark is. That everybody here, racers, residents, everybody wants to see the track today. So, really appreciate you guys trying to stick up for us. Anything you guys would need from us, be there for you. Plenty of us, and we can, anything you would need or anything we could do, people line up to help. But other than that, it's sure I told people that have something to say. Really don't want to lose a racetrack. It's not good for kids, it's not good for anybody. It's really not bothering anything to be there. So, really appreciate you guys' help. And
Can I ask you a question? Is the racetrack, so it's currently leasing?
yeah.
Is it just an annual
Yeah.
lease? When does your lease up?
So our lease goes like calendar year. So we did renew, we just renewed now last week. So should be good for next year. I don't know how good the lease deal is. Kind of always been told that you get some money and things move forward. So until then, it's always Coach's word. Let us keep racing and enjoy it.
How many years have you been
Over 35 years, we've been almost 40 years.
Try closer to 50. I've been there 40.
I don't know the exact date. Charles is, when I was talking to him, he said it was there before he bought the property. So, or his apartment, all.
In the worst case scenario, is there another place that you guys could move the racetrack around and pursue that, just if there's something that we can't do to help you at all?
So,
Yeah.
last couple years ago, when they first got the sale agreement on the property, we started looking around a little bit. Talking to other racetracks, bigger car racetracks. There was one in particular that was open to helping us out, and giving us space at their place to build our own. But other than that,
How much area would you need? How many acres would you think it would take?
so the track itself doesn't take up maybe an acre of property, but the parking is kind of more of the issue.
You know, the ballpark figure?
I think like no less than 5
No less than 5.
would be ideal. That way they can still hold bigger races, do it home with their campers and giant trailers. So it's not necessary for every week racing, but it's nice to be able to hold big races because then more people come regularly.
Thank you.
So what they presented was a sketch plan, and they had quite a ways to go, so.
Good.
Just
Yeah.
stay tuned, that you know where we're coming from.
Or, we'll keep pressuring on to try and market this, business. Before the team change, they were interested in clearing it out. I went and talked to them, everybody was cool, gave them some information, they emailed me a list of, maybe 10, 15 different questions about things about the property and the racetrack itself, and answered all that. Didn't seem to be any problems, and they were willing to work with us, but it seemed to have changed.
We'll see how it works out as time moves on.
Does anybody know why they changed their thought process on that?
The whole plan changed entirely. It went from how many,
Well,
300?
they eliminated the eddy ground track off of Chestnut Tree, and then they went to a different unit type from there based upon that track leaving. So, I don't know the whole,
It was 300 and some units, now it's 167, so it's a completely different plan now.
right, and only utilizing one property instead of 2, so significantly less units, but less than.
They still have rec requirements, we still have open space requirements. They didn't really indicate any of that on their sketch plan. So,
Those are all things that ordinances they need to comply with.
so just keep coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate
No problem.
appreciate
You
it,
done? Appreciate you guys.
that you all come out.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else on this side? Yes, sir.
My name is Joshua Milkovich. Last name is spelled Milk. O V as in Victor, ICH.
And address, or you're just part of the Speedway?
I'm just part of the Speedway. We actually, my family and I travel in every time we race from Hershey. We look forward to coming here. We enjoy the township. It's a beautiful area. Last year, the end of the race season, we had to explain to our kids that we didn't have a home racetrack anymore. Our home racetrack out in Newberrytown, PA, Bass Speedway, was being torn out so they could build something new there. And fast forward a year, we find a great place with great race community, great people, and beautiful area. And I'm hoping I'll have to tell my kids again that we don't have a home to race at there. We found such a good one that we love being a part of that here. So we appreciate you, being on our side and everything you guys have done. This is the second meeting I've attended now since we've been coming out here. And I really do appreciate everything you do to help us out. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Yes, sir.
I brought a folder because I had so much I wanted to say tonight. I think a few meetings now. I'm a newbie to the group, so not to racing, but I met the group and my kids started racing there this year for the first time. But I can tell you that I'll never forget the day my mom was driving me down to Westchester University from East Stroudsburg, so not like I lived a country mile away, but it was a spring day and I thought that this was the most beautiful place in the country. Met my wife the first day of college. We've lived here ever since. We built up our home in Glenmore in 2019. Not to talk about myself, but I think it's important to know and put on record the resources that we want to help and we want to devote. I run a global water technology company that's based out of Boston. I could live anywhere in the country, but I want my family to be raised here. I want my children to have those values, because I had those values growing up because of racing. My father was drafted into Vietnam in 1967. After 3 tours, he came home in the summer of 1969 to a different world. And while he was gone, his 2 cousins, his 2 best friends, failed their military, medical, physical, because our family has MS. And while they were gone, they became mechanics on a race team. So my father came home, he was absorbed into the racing community, started racing next year, met my mother. They got married in July at noon, because my father raced that night. This is the world we grow, multi-generational. I've got a nephew and a niece that started racing 5 years old. My nephew is 21 years old and works with Dale Jr. Graduated high school 6 months early, graduated with engineering degree in 3 years, all he's wanted to do his whole life. And now he's on the road in NASCAR's 2nd highest division. Because he started racing a go-kart at 5. So the people that do our equipment, it's a go-kart. For the Joe Dodano, NASCAR champion, he started racing quarter midgets. NASCAR's champion last year raced at Honeybrook. Ryan Blaney raced at Honeybrook as a child. There's 36 humans on the planet that are NASCAR drivers, the highest form of motorsport in the world. 36 humans. And one of them races the track in this town. So the point being is we choose to do this. We choose to be part of this community. We love it. And we want to be here long after. The last thing I would say, very similar to Josh's story. My father, that track that we fell in love with was in Freeport, New York. In 1983, they celebrated their champions. December of 1983. That year, he finished 2nd in points. Great achievement. And they set to work that winter to work on their cars so that they could be better the next year. That track never opened again. They built a caliber there. Does anybody remember what caliber was? What caliber is today? My point being is you have myself, you have a bunch of really good families that care about the same values you do. And I'm kind of just like Josh, I've only been to a few meetings. I've been around racing my whole life. I've been driving everywhere from 3 hours to Florida to race. 2 years ago, I had to retire myself. I have my children now. I want them to experience this. But after meeting this group and listening to you guys the last 2-3 meetings, listening to the supervisors last night, I just want to leave. We want to help. It was ultimately no different than the skate park that I know the town's really proud of. No different than a football field that's going to produce a running back that may or may not go to Penn State. We do the same for our values, our families, and we're choosing Honeybrook. Thornton's not choosing Honeybrook. Thornton's choosing Brook, a zip code, and an opportunity to turn a profit. The families that live in, that's a different story. They're choosing a beautiful community. But the people who are turning their back on a relationship and a deal that has been made, those are the people I'd like to help see the light. Understand that this is important for everybody here, and to your point, this is just a preliminary sketch. There should be a way to make it all work, if we can sit down and talk. So, as we head into the Christmas season, I looked at my daughter when I left tonight, and I sat here and decided none of this matters. The only thing that really matters is that she trusts us. His family trusts us. And the community trusts you guys. And so I feel like if we could work together, we could do the right thing, and everybody can win. I've been part of a million negotiations. And I'm telling you, there's never been one more obvious of a win-win if everybody would just get together and talk. So thank you for your time. I'm sorry for the long.
Thank you. One of the things I probably should have said, we try and keep the comments to 3 minutes, but
They said that last night, and I looked, the clock didn't start, so I figured, hey.
don't tell the supervisors that we did that, okay?
As long as I didn't breathe, we're all right.
Anyone else on this side? How about this side? Okay, we will, yes, sir.
It's not about the racetrack.
Okay.
My name is Gary Westlake, Westlake, and I own 2055 Cambridge Road. 2055 Cambridge Road. We've owned that farm that stretches from Park Road to Route 10 and all the way down to the drain line now for 32 years. And we have tried to be good stewards of the farm, but in recent years, I've been very vocal with representatives from PennDOT about the condition of Cambridge Road. With every rainfall, and any more of the rainfalls just seem to be torrential, our precious topsoil is getting washed off and into the draining line because the culvert pipe near closest to Route 10 and Cambridge Road is plugged, undersized, and does not carry the water anymore. And I've met with PennDOT representatives. It's been a game of finger pointing. They tell me talk to the township. I talk to Warren. And he says talk to our state representative. I've got talked to Dan Williams' office, and it's gone full circle here now. The latest news I can tell you after a 2-year intense conversations and emails back and forth is that they're planning to propose removing the pipes, the culvert pipes near 10 and Cambridge Road and replacing it with one elliptical pipe. I'm very suspect that doesn't carry the water either. And what I really feel needs, and I'm no hydrological engineer, but being on the property now for 30 plus years, I got a really good sense of where this is all coming from. Either the impervious surface runoff from the borough and its developments, or the township and its developments that have come up in the ensuing 30 years. It's just dumped more water in that water course, and it just doesn't take it. And what really needs to happen, in my opinion, is that roadbed needs to be raised up a few, maybe a foot or so, so it doesn't become such a dip in the road there. What's happening is the culvert's plugged, the water backs up, and then it finds its easiest path, and most of the time it's right through our fields and washes crops and soils right off our property. We've been installing conservation practices for many years. We plan to do some more. The word that I got most recently, as of earlier this week actually, was that PennDOT plans to put this pipe in July of next year, and remove the two pipes that are currently in there that have probably been in there 50 or 60 years. And but they will consider working with the township on an even bigger improvement or project. And so what I'm asking of the planning commission and the township is for them for you folks to reach out, find out what they're talking about, what they are considering. They were very vague in their details or anything like that. I think it's going to be probably, if they go through with this, with their plans, yes, it'll fix maybe 70 or 80% of the problem, but it's still going to be issues under heavy rains that channel through there. So, again, none of these details were shared with Representative Dan Williams' office, just that they would consider, this is their exact words, they would consider a larger project if the township and the planning commission was receptive to that.
Jennifer's one of the township engineers that represents the township. She's typing away and has it in the minutes. They'll discuss it at that level with the supervisors. It's really kind of not anything for the planning commission. There's really no action for us to do. It's really if the supervisors decide that they want to have the township engineering firm get involved to try and make sure that it's adequate, whatever they do. But they're going to have to get a general permit, right? So the PennDOT's going to have to get a permit, and they're going to have to do calculations on flow to properly size that.
Depending on where the culvert discharges to, in relationship to the stream. Let me give him a card. If you can email me your PennDOT contacts that you've been working with, so I know. I don't have to. Yeah, to change the path. But if you forward that information to me, then I'll coordinate with Warren and the township, and we'll see what we can reach out to PennDOT.
Okay.
Talk to them.
The only reason I came to you folks is because they specifically said this would be a matter of the planning commission and the township. And so that's why I came.
Well, there's probably nobody on the planning commission that's opposed to the supervisors getting involved with the township engineers to try and make the situation better.
They would absolutely be a big improvement, that road would be big. And that would be a big plus right there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's never been resurfaced right. When it was widened, the joint wasn't sealed, so that's all falling apart. All of my plain sick neighbors' steel wheels get stuck in there. The pipe that they put in closer to the schoolhouse was never put in level. And I discussed that with them at that time, and they were not real receptive of my opinion of that. But what happened was we have tile drainage coming out of our fields, and when they replaced that pipe closest to the schoolhouse, they raised it up. So now our tile drainage is always underwater and never outletting water from our fields. So I don't have a whole lot of faith, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I think the best thing would be for you to get the contacts to Jennifer and let them get involved and trying to make some sense out of what PennDOT wants to do.
Okay.
Do you have lots of like pictures and documentation of?
Yep,
That's
videos, I've stood out there in the rain. Every time it rains, heavy rains, PennDOT has to come out, take people over time to stand there or block off that road. I've sent all that to Warren in the past. He and I have been talking about this along with Representative Williams' office probably for about a year and a half. And I've met PennDOT engineers, and they've told me they've done a water study for that area, but it just carries way more water than it ever has in the past. And I'm not sure, if that's where exactly that's coming from, but it could be borough, could be township, not sure.
Well, let them talk about it and maybe make further solution.
Okay, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. Anyone else? on to our subdivision applications, the first one being the M&V Stall Spruce project, which is subdividing 25-acre lot from an 89-acre lot, and that's located at 515 Pleasant View Road.
I'm just waiting till they get out and divide this down in a second. All right, you guys have smaller copies of these plans, he's got the bigger one. Up there, so this is an existing 89-acre tract off of Pleasant View Road. Currently has an existing barn, dwelling and stuff on the property. They're looking to subdivide off a 25-acre lot, which would just be ag for now. On their plan, they do show conceptual house and driveway location. They are doing the septic testing for it. They are going through their sewage planning module. But ultimately, under this plan, there isn't full development proposed at this time. They're requesting a deferral for showing the full development and stormwater design and everything to building permit stage. That way, you know, when it comes time that they want to build on it, it's whatever they want to build at the time. But they are showing that something conceptual is possible. From a zoning standpoint, the proposed lot configuration complies with our ordinance requirements. There is some wetlands and riparian buffers out in the rear of the property. It's not near the existing development. It's not near where they showed the potential development on the newly created lot. They'll have to record new deeds to fully enact the subdivision. They will have to provide their monumentation before the pins are established. They are going for sewage planning. It's a minor subdivision, so the planning commission shall determine if any landscaping is required. And as I said, they're requesting the deferral, the development of lot 2. So they're requesting that deferral, and then they're requesting a waiver to not set pins for the full residual lot. They'll pin the new 25-acre lot, but they don't want to have to pin the entire parent parcel where there's not pins now. So that's kind of your review. If you have anything to add,
I think you covered pretty much everything, so I'm here to answer any questions, or if you'd like me to elaborate on anything further.
What's the purpose of the subdivision? Is it just the family subdividing off?
Yes, so it'll either be for Elmer or one of his children. So it'll be in the family. He is just preparing, I think, for his retirement, so to say. And at the moment, he's just not ready to build, still has to decide the exactly dimensions he wants, so that's why we have a very basic plan shown, just to show that we can conform with any zoning issues. And then we are staying away, like she said, from the wetlands and everything, so when he is ready to build, we shouldn't have any issues with clearing from that.
Is this for an ag preservation or?
I believe so, yes. So you have it marked as a clean green. So we will work with Elmer to make sure he, gets all of his approval from that for that.
They're not required to do any stormwater testing for the lot 2, are
no, we can defer until they do the full design. They are doing the septic testing, so we do know it's a viable building lot. So I don't see a need to require those stormwater testing to be done at this time.
Do we have to do a waiver, a non-building waiver at this point?
They're doing the full sewage planning module.
Well, so we'll be okay.
Yes, so they'll be approved, and that will be approved as a building lot from DEP, from a septic standpoint. And then their deferral would be to do the full, like, grading plan and stormwater management plan prior to issuance of a building permit.
So how do we feel about recommending a waiver for the pins, putting the pins on the parent track? No problem with that? So this is should be considered minor, so we can make that recommendation this evening, if we want to make that recommendation. Good. Do you want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Any questions on the recommendation? We'll go to the motion in seconds.
And that was for the deferral development,
That-
or the monuments.
That was for the monuments,
Okay.
correct? You were, yeah,
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking,
22-409, 14-621.
yeah.
All in favor of recommending the waiver from the parent track pins? Say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
Would be to allow a deferral from the requirements of the stormwater management ordinance and the salvo to show the full development and stormwater design at this time.
Does anyone want to make a motion to what Jen just said?
I'll make a motion with deferral.
We need a second on a motion to defer.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Then, if you're willing to make a recommendation, does anybody feel any landscaping needs to be provided for this subdivision? Landscaping for minor subdivisions is at the discretion of the PC. I mean, all the existing buildings, are staying as is, they're well deep into the track, and then it would be the proposed dwelling in a barn on the new lot potentially at some point in the future.
All farmland, correct?
Yeah.
So where's the big moves going to be towards the back?
They're not saying,
So
yeah,
we
but it's
have
gonna be on
them
the
shown
side.
in
They have a proposed one shown.
Up in the front.
Yeah, so originally we had it shown closer to the wetland area just to maximize the space, but he would like it closer to the riverway. Now, that may change when we get to the stormwater land development plan, but we'll make sure that we conform with any country standards.
The only thing I would see would be the next door neighbor there, but, if he's not going to any business there, it's just going to be time, then probably will be, thank you.
Can that be, can we revisit that when it would come in for the approval of the lot?
Well, if it comes in, when they go to do their stormwater, it would only come in as a stormwater only plan that gets reviewed. But if at some point, like Levi said, they're gonna run a business there, they're gonna do a rural occupation, they would have to come back to land development for that rural occupation. So at this point, if it's just a house, the barn just for the true ag purpose of the property for a barn and not for a rural occupation, it would just go through the stormwater plan through me. But if they do want to do a rural occupation at some point, you guys would see the plan again and be able to do landscaping associated with that rural occupation or business.
I'm fine with waiving the landscaping requirement.
we should probably take formal action on that, or formal recommendation.
The landscaping, since it's at your discretion, I can just make a comment in the minutes that no landscaping was deemed necessary. It doesn't have to be a formal waiver, since it's a minor subdivision.
Is that how we feel about that? Okay.
All right, and then you could just, then if you would like to make a recommendation, conditional, final, contingent upon November 22nd.
So the request is for a motion to recommend conditional final based on the Technicon letter of November 22nd, 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Any further questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Okay, our next item of business is land development sketch plan for a daycare facility on Horseshoe Pike.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim Grisillo. First, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come here before you tonight. And I promise I'll do my best to stay within that 3-minute clock. So,
Oh, it doesn't really apply to
Yeah,
you.
you're on the agenda, so you,
I'll do my best.
You get more time, but 3 minutes would be appreciated.
Well, again, as I said, we're here with regard to 3073 Horseshoe Pike, which is in the township. It is our request and intention, if granted, to develop the site so that we can build a freestanding child care facility there. My wife and I have been in the child care business for over 30 years. We currently have a location in Downingtown. It's actually West Bradford Township at 1424 Poorhouse Road. And it's known as Creative Kids of Downingtown. That particular facility is just about 10,000 square feet, which is approximately what we're suggesting for this location as well. With regard to my family, my wife and I live in Applecross, which is just a few minutes down the road. We do have family that are in the Twin Valley School District. I have 3 grandchildren that are in there right now. The oldest are in 3rd grade and the youngest is in 1st. And they'll be there for many years to come. My daughter-in-law teaches over at St. John Paul II Catholic School, not too far from here. She's married to my son Tom, who is here with us tonight. And we also have Jim Hagney from Commonwealth Engineers, who will get more into the details. I just wanted to give you as much information in as little time as possible about us and what our intentions are. We are a family-operated child care facility. It is our complete and only intention to develop this site to build a facility that will be definitely used for and by the residents of Honeybrook Township. We found that in our Downingtown location that has 109 children enrolled, over 90% of them live within 5 miles of that facility. Over 80% of our teaching staff, which is approximately 24 teachers at that facility, again, over 80% of them live within 5 miles of that facility. So our belief is that we will service the needs of the immediate community of Honeybrook and also be able to gainfully employ 15, 16, 17 people, hopefully residents of Honeybrook. The closer they are, the better it is. That's been our experience going forward. But we are a family-owned center. We have no corporate entity that we have to answer to. We only have to answer to the parents and, of course, the ruling bodies, which would be the township. I would encourage you to contact West Bradford Township. We've been there for over 20 years. They know us extremely well. We have never had an issue, and they come to us for help from time to time, which we gladly supply. We're licensed by the Pennsylvania Department of Public Welfare. We're also licensed by the Pennsylvania Department of Education as a private academy. We can teach children up through 4th grade, but here at this location, we intend to call it just basically a child care facility for newborn, which is basically 6 weeks old, through 5.5 years old. We believe that the center, at a little under 10,000 square feet, will have a capacity of approximately 100. That 100 would require no more than 17 teachers, so that would put us in a spot where we would be able to make a 28 parking lot functional according to township regulations. We believe that we have to provide one for each 10 children, and we have to have a parking spot for each of the teachers. So we do believe that 28 would allow us to handle that. Our plan will also address the only incoming reasonably heavy vehicle, which would be a trash truck, which would be contracted to come only on Saturday when the center is closed, so that number one, it won't interfere with the day-to-day traffic operations of the facility, and it won't be a nuisance for the children while they're there. We have such an arrangement at our location in downtown right now. So we know that that won't be an issue, and we will make a commitment to the township that there will be absolutely no heavy-duty vehicles on the property, such as a Cisco truck that delivers food. All the food that comes to our center, I personally deliver. I put it in the back of my SUV. I go to stores like BJ's, the restaurant store, the places that sell bulk, Aldi's, regular supermarkets, and everything that we obtain, we deliver ourselves, so we'll never have heavy-duty transport coming in and out. I believe that the site plan, which Jim will go over with you, will address all of those issues. And I'll just leave you with, again, our purpose is to be a family-run center, again, with no corporate ties. We answer to no one except the families and, of course, the ruling body. We're there always. My son Tom, who's here now, will be the managing director of that center. And as I said, his wife is at St. John Paul, so they're keeping it local as well. We believe in community. It's what we are all about. And again, I would encourage you to pick up the phone at your leisure and talk to anybody in West Bradford, and I'm sure you'll hear nothing but good about what Creative Kids can do. The entity which will own the building will be the Grisillo Family Center of Honeybrook, and the entity that will run the child care business will be Creative Kids of Honeybrook. And we like to keep the name in the business because it is a tie to the community. We want the community to want us just as much as we want to be there. We think that we will offer a good, growing business for the community, which by all of what I see is doing nothing but growing. And hopefully you see a need for what we're providing. So having said all that, I'll turn it over to Jim, and I'll let him take care of all the details. Oh, one last thing I'd like you to note is obviously, if I may approach, this is a photo rendering of our existing facility on Poorhouse Road. Our construction will be very similar to this, with stone and cement sideboard on the entire building. And this is the most recent project which I did, which was a renovation of a 300-year-old farmhouse up in Yardley, and that's occupied by two of my sons who are attorneys. I also built a 5,000 square foot law center for them up in Newtown as well. So I've been in the construction business for approximately 30 years. I'd like to forget most of what I already know about it, but we tend to try and do a good job because everything that we do, we own. We don't, we're not a believer in building something and flipping it to somebody else. We build it because we recognize the need. We want to provide the service in a building that we own, and we will be responsible. With that, I'll turn you over to Jeff. Thank you.
Hi folks, my name's James Hagney, I'm with Commonwealth Engineers. I don't know if I really need to add a whole lot to what Jim said. He was pretty thorough in his presentation and detailed. But as you know, Jen, Commonwealth did issue a review letter for the sketch plan items that we did take a look at those items, made a few quick revisions to the plan to address those larger items, and arrived at basically a mirror image layout from the plan that you see in front of you, where the driveway is on the eastern property line. Circling back to the 28 parking spaces, we took another look at the number of employees and revised the parking count, and we have enough parking spaces to support the amount of students that we're projecting for the facility. The second item that we wanted to focus on was the trash truck, which Jim covered, and we had that will be handled with the private pickup on weekends. Then we also wanted to talk about and Jen mentioned a couple of things that were items that required potential variance. One was the parking count, but the other one was sidewalk along the frontage. And I'm sure that when we prepare the land development plan and we go through that process with the planning commission, we'll figure out that sidewalk. We don't intend to ask for a variance on the sidewalk, but we would like to see what we can do to facilitate that. Part of that's going to come on and providing, whatever pedestrian access is along the frontage. It could be in the PennDOT right away. We're going to be working with PennDOT to deal with that issue as well. The PennDOT highway occupancy permit will be looking at having basically a pre-application meeting with PennDOT, and we'll have to involve a traffic engineer so we can justify our ingress and egress counts for the business day at peak hours. And then what happens with PennDOT is that we decide, that this Westlake is going to fall into a low volume driveway application. So when we meet with PennDOT and we hammer out those details, that's when we get into some of the details that Jen mentioned in her sketch plan review letter, which is a deceleration lane and things of that nature. We are going to defer to PennDOT on what they would like us to do in that area. I will point out that horseshoe pipe in that area already has a pretty substantial paved shoulder, so I don't think that accommodating PennDOT for ingress and egress is going to be difficult. We've already done, our office has done a couple of highway occupancy permits for, if you recall, the land development plan for the Dollar Tree, which was probably, I would say a similar volume, maybe even higher. So we're not feeling concern over obtaining a highway occupancy permit, but we have to go through that legwork, and we'll do that during the land development.
Do you think it'll be right in, right out?
I can't say, I don't know if that's going to happen at this point in time. I'd like to, we'll sit down and have that discussion with PennDOT.
They'll drive it, it'll be whatever.
Right, and that's why when we consult with the traffic engineer, we get counts and incidence numbers on, volume, peak rush hour volume, and that all comes into play at that time.
How far down the road were you with the Dollar Tree as far as the HOP?
We had the HOP in hand. We did a renewal. You can only renew them for, I believe, you had 2 cracks at that. I think we renewed it twice, and the previous developer just never constructed the access point, which, at this point in time, our access for the daycare center is shifted from that, so it probably would.
Was that a right in, right out, or was it full movement?
I don't remember. I was, in my office, I was not involved with that application process. What was odd about that was that I believe that design was prepared by another engineering firm, but the developer came to us and said, hey, we need you to renew this access. So we were dealing with that other design. So I think that's really the large items. The one last thing that I did want to talk about is the ability to look at this as a minor land development plan, and in which case we would file, minor land development plan, but we would just be looking at preliminary final bundled together for that approval process. You know, that obviously, you know, we're going to be looking at all of the land development items that the planning commission wants input on, landscaping, lighting, even the screening and buffering, and we'll have time to go over that, but we're asking if we can view this as a minor land development plan and have it as a preliminary / final approval process.
What are you gonna do with the neighbor's driveway that's on?
Right, and that is, we have a couple of previously reported land development plans that show that the driveways to be relocated. And we'll be working with the neighbor to provide that or to coordinate that. But our intention is that we want to honor the previous subdivision plan and have that portion of the driveway that's on the property relocated.
On Jennifer's letter dated November 25th, are there any items on there that you don't believe you can comply with?
Yeah, it's a fairly straight up, there was nothing, and that's why we like to do these sketch plans, is that, you know, Jen will pretty thoroughly point out the big items that could be what we call a deal breaker or a problematic item. We don't see anything of that nature.
And did I understand you to say that you don't expect to request any waivers?
I was talking about variances. Yeah, waivers, I don't know when we get into stormwater management. I think that, you know, looking at the stormwater management design, we already have a drainage easement. If you look at the northern property line, and it's on the plan for an existing outlet pipe, and we do plan to reconfigure that and work with the stormwater design. If we're under an acre in size, we're looking at not having to comply with an NPDES permit because we'll be under an acre of land disturbance. So, you know, ideally, we'd like to try and keep the stormwater design, you know, as simple as possible, but typically, I don't really like to ask for waivers. I mean, we just had a discussion earlier today about culverts flooding, so, you know, we can typically make that stuff compliant.
Jim, just going back, so I have it for the minute I was typing, then when we talk. Your comment about the parking count and modifying the parking, can you just go back over that for me?
Sure, and it's on the revised plan, but I could do, if you don't mind, I can pass it around and it was on
I
the
think
presentation
it's
for it.
slightly reconfigured.
Yeah, so,
Okay, so they flipped, that's what I heard you say in the beginning.
right,
They
so
flipped it,
this is essentially a
mirror image.
yeah, it's a mirror image and it's a rectangular box, so it's, you know, the site can be flipped based on the setbacks.
So this is what you're proposing,
Not this.
or where's the parking, on the east or west?
West side.
On the west side.
Right, and the reason that we were looking at the west side
Yeah.
parking is that in the event that we're working with PennDOT to provide a deceleration lane, that gives us as much property frontage as possible to deliver that. Now, PennDOT, you know, may have issues with an existing driveway right next door, so we have to work with PennDOT for that. And what I'm saying here is that we can do either option, but we're looking at this, we're leaning towards the western driveway. And of course, this is conditional on PennDOT. Certainly back to the parking requirements. We had one space, we had 18 employees, and then one space for 10 children for 100 children, and that
Okay.
is where we're arriving at 28 parking spaces. Would you like to pass it around? Or,
You can just walk it down
Yeah,
and then
you
just
think-
see the flip configuration.
really,
I actually think that works better.
then I'd like to just- Yeah. So it's essentially the same layout.
Parking right along the building, being used for the students, and then the employee parking on the far side for the concern we mentioned in the beginning about the kids crossing. My kids went to daycare for years, you know, I get it. There was a comment before the meeting, I think, about the kids, you know, and drop off, they cross traffic and stuff like that. And that was
Yes.
part of the comment I had in the letter, that parking along the building should be reserved for the students.
Yes.
And the ones on the opposite side designated for employees.
Right, and certainly, when we get into, part of our layout plan and the land development plan process will show signage demarcating the pickup drop-off spots, so that, because that is an item, you don't want to have a kid walking across the parking lot and that sort of thing. So usually when we're going to do that, it's going to be closest to the building entrance with the ADA spot. So we'll show signage and demarcation for that.
Yeah, the concern was somebody's pulling into the spots away from the building, not against the building, and there's people backing out with people coming across with
Right, and typically, when,
If I could address a couple of those parking issues, we've dealt with all of this with our location on Courthouse Road. And as Jen pointed out, all the parking spots right up against the building will be for parents only dropping off children. They will also be told that that's the only place that they can park, where the parking on the other side of the driveway is for staff only. Now, what we do in addition to that, and we've done this on Courthouse Road, is there will be a sidewalk between the facade of the building and the parking. At the edge of the sidewalk, every 4 feet, we put in a concrete pier, and then we put the rubber coverings over them, and we actually make them look like crayons, which is what we did. It really looks cute. But the most important thing is that it's poured concrete with rebar, 8 inches wide, that goes 4 feet into the ground, and they're 4 feet apart, so you can hit it with a truck, and you're not going to get to the building. We've already had it happen on Courthouse Road. We put them there so that the cars wouldn't literally roll down the hill, which happened to us years ago, so we figured let's get smart, and we came up with the idea of the concrete ballast posts. We're going to do that the entire length of the building, so when a child gets out of the car where I am, they take a few steps forward, and they're protected by a concrete wall of posts that you can see through. So there's a safety component to that as well. We also have a lot of solid information. I don't know if you want me to get into it tonight or not regarding parking, but our records show very clearly, because we're operating the center now with 100 children in it, that, for example, between 6:30 and 7 o'clock, we may have 5 parents show up. Between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock, we may have 15 to 20 parents show up. Between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, another 20 show up, and the same thing between 9 and 10. So there's never more than 20 or 30 cars within an hour, not 5 minutes. There's never an influx of 70 or 80 children in 15 minutes. It just does not happen. And we can prove it by historical records, because our computer system tracks all of that information, and we'll share that with the township so that you'll see. And more important, when we get a traffic study done for the township to look at, we'll be able to point that out very specifically, that we have a minimal flow of traffic in and out at any given time. And, everything happens between 6:30 and 10 o'clock in the morning, because in our contracts with parents, no one comes after 10 o'clock, because we have programs going on for the education of the children. But the parents that come 6:30, 7:30, 8 o'clock, they then start picking up children at 3:30, 4 o'clock. So the same thing happens on the way out. It's all staggered, basically the parents are there between 9 and 10 hours, the children, between 9 and 10 hours a day, and the traffic flows accordingly. So we are very comfortable that we will be able to prove without a doubt there's never an influx of more than 30 cars or trips in an hour. So a trip counts as 2. We understand that as well. But I hopefully can make that clear enough for you that it will relieve any traffic issues that you may think exist. We can prove it beyond all doubt based on years of records that we have. And again, with the security of the children by putting those concrete posts there, that's just another added bonus, we think, that makes everything safe. The plan shows playground, which will be surrounded by fencing according to township requirements. We'll even have concrete posts down that far so that nothing can encroach on that playground from the parking lot. You know, we make it just basically a wall of concrete posts. Nothing will get, think of like a wall, they do it all the time.
Because of the age of your, I'm sorry, because of the age of the population that you're gonna be dealing with, that you're not gonna have any, I guess not up to 5, any small buses
Oh, no.
bringing in
No, no
or
buses.
taking out. So
No.
you don't have your own little bus on the
No,
property.
because it becomes a liability, and not only for us, but then for any entity that would allow us to do it. We've looked into that. I'm amazed that other places do it, because the liability on that is extremely heavy. The parents bring their children, we do not take the children off of site, you know, we do not do field trips. We are a self-contained center. And just like our other location, this will be self-contained as well. We have generators, you know, that we can generate our own electricity. Hopefully the power grid here is good, I don't know. But if it's not, we'll be able to operate, because we'll have generators that will do it for us. You know, so we have that at that location because we don't have public water. We have an on-site storage tank that holds 5,000 gallons of drinkable water. Now here I know we have public water, so that removes that aspect. But to your point, no buses, no trucks, no food delivery vehicles, nothing that can pose any kind of remote danger to anybody that's in there. Because when those children are there, they're my children, and I have to worry about them. Right now in the center that we were in, I have 6 of my grandchildren there. So the parents know that everybody that's there, including one of his children, they know that those children are treated like their family, because to me they are.
Will this be considered a school zone?
I'm sorry?
Will this be considered a school zone in front of it when we'll have a 15-mile-an-hour slope down?
No,
It's a state
it's not.
Yeah, I don't believe that's required.
That is not, you know, and I know that because we looked at that way back when we did Poorhouse Road. It's a different type of road, of course, but no, there's no requirement. That road, I believe, has a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. We did ask the township, and they did put up signs, I think, that reduced it down to 35 in front of the expanse of our site there, which is about 300 feet long. So, yeah, and we have traffic coming in both directions, so we, you know, not as much traffic, obviously, as it's out here, but again, when you see the traffic flow in and out, you'll realize it's a very low impact on the community traffic going by.
I live on Burnell Road, you know, especially in certain times in the morning and the afternoon, if you're trying to make a left off of South, you go over, you come 3 you're not gonna do it. That's why I like staggered, because you have people getting staggered different times of the morning, they not all 7 o'clock in the morning or all 8 o'clock in the morning. They have a window from like 7 to 10.
Yeah, yes, well, we open up at 6:30, and by 10 o'clock, all the parents are in, and that's part of the contracts that they sign, because they know they have to be there by 10, because it disrupts the educational flow. We're not just a babysitting service, we actually have a very strong educational component, and we're very proud of that. We have a licensed kindergarten in the facility that we have right now, and the children all go on to first grade from there. So, you know, education is a big part of what we do. The smaller they are, the more they absorb. We know that.
Do you ever have events like parties at there for the kids?
The only thing, no, not for like a birthday party, no.
Like
Like a
Halloween parade, Mother's Day tea,
We
you know, times.
we will do, and have done in the past, exactly what you said. Halloween, it's not the day of Halloween, it's usually maybe a week before, where the children can come in their costumes. But and the same thing will happen at Christmas. I'm going to describe both at the same time. We have Christmas shows that the children put on. But in that case, we'll have probably no more than 3 classes, which would be about 30 children that would have their Christmas show. And then the next day, there would be another one. And it's not in heavy traffic time in the morning. It would be, the Christmas show would typically be 12 o'clock, we'd have the show, come in, enjoy it, have some snacks afterwards, and everybody starts to go home at like 2:30, 3 o'clock. Halloween, same thing. Children walk around the playground, the parents get to see all the costumes. But we do it for small groups. We never have an event where everybody's there. The only time everybody is there is when we're just having our daycare operation. And I will tell you, I don't think I mentioned it before, that with 100 children in the center we have now, we have 109 licensed in there today. But on any given day, there's a 15 to 20% vacancy because children are sick, grandma and grandpa are visiting from wherever, they go on vacations. We never have a full capacity of children because of different things that happen. So with 109, I think today we had 85 in the building. That's today. And on the special occasions, yes, we do have them, but they are very off-hour time. It's not peak traffic flow, and we'll make sure that we adhere to that here as well.
Yeah, I said, when my kids were in daycare, they would do school-wide the whole time. We were parked in the development across the street, on the sides of the road, and that's not really feasible here.
It's not feasible here, no,
Right.
we do not do that.
No, just as long as.
We keep it, we keep
That's
it in
it.
there.
Okay.
I have a question. How many feet is it from your parking area to the intersection of 322 and Grisillo Road?
So 20.
Oh, the intersection, oh boy, off the top of my head, I don't have the number from a GIS map. I can get that info.
Hold on,
for you.
I can pull
So I
it.
can see from the map it's not fall.
Right.
So that's already your intersection depth. Anybody who's on 322 trying to make a left-hand turn on the South Grisillo Road, which I've been doing for the last 20 years, I have to hold my breath and hope that nobody kills me from hitting me behind. People do not slow down on that intersection. They do not stop and wait if someone's making a left-hand turn there. They just go around. And there's been a number of fatal accidents at that intersection already. And
So,
I'm concerned about the short distance between your parking lot and that intersection, because if there's, especially at drop-off and pickup times, people coming out of that, out of your parking lot, and there's already a car stopped there to make a left-hand turn on the Burdell, what's gonna happen then?
so it's about, if the entrance is on the west side as shown there, it's about 315 feet. If it's on the eastern side, it's about 450 feet.
So they
And that's all, I mean, PennDOT will have to take all that into consideration and what turning movements and everything.
So
Yeah.
if people are coming from the west and traveling east on 322, and they would need to make a left-hand turn into the daycare center, what happens to that intersection now?
These are the items
The
that,
traffic study says.
right, when we work with a traffic engineer.
Well, I understand that, but I would hope that they think of this before they do the traffic study.
Well, I think that's feedback that, Jim and Commonwealth can give to the traffic engineer. Who's your traffic engineer for this, Jim?
But most likely we'll work with Andy Hammer on this. But, when we work with the traffic engineer, Andy, the guy that we'll typically use, he looks at all of that, and that's part of how he puts together the study and the recommendation, and then we have to work with PennDOT on how to coordinate.
Yeah. So just pass along that feedback, Tom.
Yeah.
There's concern about the distance.
I mean, we had this,
There,
a lot of
safe
the
turning
same
radius.
issues when the Dollar Tree proposed developing that site. So I've got continuing issues with anything that goes on
Sure.
that site.
Yeah, and, but,
There's no traffic light there.
right, but PennDOT did approve that permit for the Dollar Tree, so that's when.
Well, PennDOT doesn't really care if anybody dies at that intersection, but I do.
I hope they care, at least.
No, they don't. We've, a number of times, there's been feedback about having a light Chestnut Tree Road in 22. And PennDOT's attitude is none of the people die there, so we can't get away with it.
Yeah, they do what they call, it's a warrant study, and then they decide whether or not an intersection warrants that traffic light. And that's unfortunately, that's out of our hands. We can work with PennDOT, and PennDOT will grant us the permit for access onto their highway. But then some of those parameters, as heartbreaking as that is, they're out of our hands. Yeah, but we,
I live here, so it's.
sure, and, I appreciate that you brought that to our attention, and we'll look into that, and, work with our traffic engineer accordingly.
I was actually wondering, how far does that property go east? Would that be a possibility for a driveway on the east? To eliminate some of that?
Well, that's our decision.
Yeah, they had originally, so it would be between 315 feet if it's on the west,
Oh, okay.
and for about 450.
Really, yeah, given the layout, the restrictions of the zoning ordinance for buffers, our intersection really boils down to a limitation of being able to shift it 100 to 150 feet in any given direction, whether it's east or west, but we'll deal with the hand we're dealt with that parcel.
But I think this is a much better use for this parcel than what we've seen in the past, given that it's all residential around. And I did talk to some of the neighbors, the one directly behind this, and they were okay with this use. They thought it was a good use for this property, so they're gonna be your biggest person that, would be opposed to something. So, he said he was okay with it. He felt like the building was a little bit too big, but, they were on board with the use, and he's the one that has the driveway encroaching on the property, so,
How are they gonna move that driveway?
it actually goes over this way. Their property goes over this way. So
They
it needs
have
to
a
be
flag
moved.
strip
Yeah,
out.
they have a flag.
But
Yeah, the
the
two
driveway's
parcels,
not fully in the flag strip, it's,
Because they own this property.
yeah.
They own this and this.
They sold
And
it.
then they sold this, and the driveway was already on.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just, the way it looks like it comes in, just like, for it to go, it's gonna be right in front of the front door. I guess.
It's gonna be,
Their driveway,
yeah, it's.
their
house is
driveway
right
now
there.
kind of comes up
Yeah, look
and
at
then
that.
widens out. There's another, that driveway serves
This house
both
here.
properties.
This
There's two
house.
houses back there.
Mhm.
So the driveway comes up, bends, and widens out, and then it's like a big area kind of alongside. It does run in front of their house now. And then there's kind of a big parking area
Yeah, I
between
can,
the
I'm
two
looking at
houses.
it up on the
Yeah.
satellite view right now.
there is a recorded plan that actually shows the common driveway easement and the relocated driveway. So it's certainly been thought about in the past, and that plan was approved and recorded. So that was our intention, is to say, okay, now it's time to relocate the driveway. But there's a common driveway easement for both of those parcels, and there is the location of that driveway, including that front turnaround apron in front of the existing dwelling. So it can be done, because it was thought about and approved. Now, this was a little while back, but we do have a plan in place.
Yeah, I agree, I think it's a good use, of the property. I would just reiterate again, that is a very dangerous intersection that you're gonna be, dealing with. Just as somebody who's lived here a long time, there's lots of accidents there. So, that's just coming from us, because we're, we drive it, all the time. So just,
Yep.
for the safety of everybody on the road end, people using the daycare, I hope that they can manage that effectively.
But I'm sure as farther east you keep that driveway, the better, because people coming up to turning left on Burdale, if they're waiting there, people go around the side of them, and if there'd be other drive on the right-hand side, I can even imagine stuff happening there, but if they keep that farther east, it's gonna be the best thing. And I think it's a good use.
Has Chuck Horton's done their scoping yet?
I'm not sure if they've done their scoping for their latest plan yet. You are.
But you guys are part of that, so, you can be curious to see if their scoping could be expanded to take a look at that intersection.
I'll talk to, Mike's had some of the pre-application meetings and discussions with them, so I'll check to see if he knows
And
if
when
they've
you,
had their scoping meeting yet, or,
if you're referring to that scoping meeting, is that for the larger subdivision that
Yeah.
drew some of these folks?
yes, that's for the, yeah.
And
One where the
I would say by
racetrack is.
comparison, when you're looking at, what were the number of units you were kicking around? 150-ish?
Yeah, 160 some now.
Yeah, times two, if that's, sure. And it could very well be that that scoping result of that subdivision,
Yeah.
might push a warrant and depend on some sort of traffic light that comes into play, because that's what, ultimately starts to happen. But again, these things are, we're a kind of small.
Yeah, no, their comment was
small comparison.
whether that intersection of Verdell is included in the larger
Yeah.
developments.
Well, anything you
Scoping
can do
meetings,
to
we'll check.
should help would be great, because I think that, if you're putting that much of an impact on your township with that many units.
There's only 24 units, there's probably considered an driveway.
Well, but if you're adding to another,
Yeah, I mean, they would have to, as part of the traffic study for the larger development, they would take into account other developments that are moved in the area, so.
How many parking spaces do you have at your current facility?
I'm sorry, how many?
Parking spaces do you currently have at your facility?
Oh, in the location that we're in now, we actually have 50, but the property was originally a Jehovah's Witness church, and when it was a Jehovah's Witness church, they had a large attendance. We have an upper parking lot and a lower parking lot, total of 50 spaces. The most that are ever used are somewhere between 15 and 20. Because the upper parking lot's actually a little bit more difficult, I will say, because it's just, you're doing nothing but climbing a hill. So the staff all parks in the lower parking lot, and we have a set of concrete steps that goes to the lower parking lot to the upper parking lot, and then the parents use the upper parking lot to drop off children. And, so same idea, but they're pulling a little bit away from the building, and then they're walking across because there's minimal traffic up there. But again, any day, somewhere between 15 and 20 spots are used continually out of the I've never seen the parking out there. And we were there
That,
on Sunday.
the parking concerns me a little bit, just because there is no overflow. I mean, if that parking lot's full, there's no development to go into, there's.
Well, I can appreciate that, and I would just kindly point out that yes, you will have staff there, and the staff will be 15, 16, 17 people. Those cars will be there, but not everybody, for example, we have two vehicles that come, each with 2 teachers, because they're sisters and 2 live near each other. We do see a lot of that from time to time. So just because we have 17 teachers doesn't mean we have 17 cars. The other thing, we've actually had teachers take Ubers to come to work, which I guess is a good thing. But that, we do think that we would have enough here. And with the parents only being in the building for no more than 3 or 4 minutes, the parents don't come and spend 2 hours there. They come, they want to go. And they drop it. They want to go, boy. And they drop their children off and they go their merry way. So there's always going to be that strip of 14, of which I can't imagine we're going to have more than 5 or 6 at any given time. Cars parked for parents, based on the traffic flow, because as I said to you, the traffic flow, we track by the minute. So when I gave you numbers earlier saying, between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, we may have 30 trips. But it's, there's one at 9:02, there's one at 9:06, and they're 2 or 3 minutes apart for that whole hour. Very rarely do we have more than 4 or 5 parents at the building at the same time. And we expect the same thing here. And we do our part to move them along, because there's separation, the children, we get them in, we get them away from mom and dad as quickly as we can. And mom and dad want us to get them away as quickly as we can, so we do what we're asked.
Yeah, I'm just thinking worst case scenario, you get a bunch of people showing up at the same time, what do you do? You know what I mean? You can't sit out there on 322 and wait to pull in. That's just my thought. But I trust that you have the numbers and you'll be able to justify having that number.
And I'd like to go back to what I was listening to Susan, address with regard to the possibility of signs and traffic out on the road. I shouldn't offer things ahead of time that I don't have to, but I think as a mom, or as a dad, obviously, having my own children and their grandchildren, we're ultimately concerned with the traffic flow just as you are. I have no objection asking the state if we could put up some kind of signage, that's maybe 100 yards down the road saying, hey, slow down, we have a child care facility here. One of the other things that I was going to ask Jen outside the meeting about was, at some point in the not too distant future, if you folks give us an approval to move forward, we were going to request putting up a sign now saying this is coming. And that sign can say anything we want it to say with the township approval. And part of that may be slow down, child care center coming, so that if people see it, they'll start to think, hey, sometime a half a year from now, there's going to be a lot of little children here. And the other thing that we found works all the time is we've got a very good relationship with the Pennsylvania State Police, because our location in downtown is very close to the Engr barracks. We've had 4 different state troopers have their children in our facility, and they work with us hand in hand. And there's nothing that's going to slow down a car more than a state trooper sitting out front handing out tickets a couple of times a week. It'll turn on the lights for everybody else that's zipping by. Because I agree with you, some people don't care, but if they see that it's coming, if we're allowed to put up a couple of signs, maybe a blinking sign even, that says, hey, slow down, we can ask, are we allowed to restrict the speed at certain times? I don't think we'll get that, but we could ask. And I have no problem putting up a sign, saying, hey, beware, some type of, without saying school zone, because this won't technically be a public school, but it's still the same idea. So we'll do whatever we're allowed to do and go over and above, to help mitigate any kind of issue that you may feel, and rightfully feel, is a concern. So we'll look into that and we'll do what we're allowed to do. But a big sign, like I said, coming soon, that'll start getting the message out a half a year, ahead of time. Because if we put the sign up in January or February, I doubt we're going to start construction for, if everything went super well, for about a year. So if they're looking at a sign and they know it's coming, and we can continually change the message on that sign, that may help the overall traffic flow out on that road as well.
So what if you take the, not to interrupt, but to interrupt, what if you take that loading zone and push that back into the setback and do the turnaround like this, and put the trash receptacle at the end of that? Because I don't see how a trash truck is going to get up against that square anyways, the way you have it set. You could probably maybe add 2 more spaces on each side. I mean, Jen would have to look into it to see what kind of,
We can take a look at,
what kind of relief that we would have to,
Yeah,
provide.
coordinate with you, Jim,
That could
and,
possibly add 4 more spaces.
Oh, it would.
yeah.
We brought you a plan that conforms to the regulations as they are. If you would allow us to make some small modifications like that, we'd be very happy to do that. Now, it's going to encroach back into that setback
I
area.
understand.
I would even ask, and this is just an ask, the playground is inside of the setbacks as they are in the ordinance. But if we're allowed to push that back a little bit, that would just give us more space for things. We'd be happy to do that, and
I'll
I'll let you look at those details.
I did, we do have a buffer requirement, and that's the, the landscaping buffer requirement, I believe, is 20 feet. So that's.
Yeah,
really
we'll
starting
be-
that tree.
That rear.
That being said,
That's 25 feet.
right.
Yeah, we'll
But
look at those couple, and
Yeah.
I don't remember from the exact language from what can and can't be in those buffers.
Right.
But I definitely agree, if we can add more parking, it would be great.
Put more spaces.
Yeah.
Right. So there's,
So Jim, shoot me an email
Yeah.
with the couple things, like, look at it and say, hey, if we could scoot the playground back a little, or we could move the dumpster here, does this comply? And then I can,
right.
look at your couple scenarios from a zoning compliance standpoint.
Right, and again, this is, a sketch plan, and we're looking to move forward, but we'll coordinate with Jen on some of these items in a sketch plan phase follow-up, and then that way, when we get ready to do the land development plan, we're not, spinning our wheels and wasting time on a big.
I think you've heard
Yeah.
from everybody here that,
Yeah.
they think this is a good use of this property.
Yeah,
So,
That's not worth it.
what'd you say? You don't want anything there.
Well, I'm concerned, actually,
Traffic.
any commercial property there, because of the traffic issues, I don't have an issue with the daycare center. And if it was a quarter mile further down the road, I wouldn't have any problems with it. But I have a lot of issues with any commercial proposal that we've had that close to that intersection of Cordell and 322. And then just to the east, couple hundred feet to the east of where you're proposing to build, there's a Turkey Hill convenience store. And I've seen people pull out of that very rapidly, especially when they're making cross traffic going west. And that's like another high accident place. So you're gonna have a high accident on one side and a high accident place on the other side. And I'm just concerned about adding even more traffic to that at certain times of the day when it's already busy.
So I just, safety concerns are out there too.
sure.
Well, I imagine that PennDOT's gonna look at the
Yeah.
crash data for that intersection when it is studied. But that intersection is gonna be part of it.
Yeah, that whole length of
Unless
roadway.
they consider this a low volume entrance, then they might not even look at it.
I'm fairly certain, no, 100% certain, but fairly certain that this will be able to volume driveway with PennDOT's trips per day cutoffs. And to get up to medium volume driveway, you're kind of kicking into what I would say is a more of a shopping center, where you're, over, I believe, 750 trips per day, and then, I forgot what that high-end cutoff is, like 2,500 or something like that. But we're in the low volume. The minimum use is residential zone, and then you're right into low volume, and that gives you quite a bit of latitude.
The dollar store that was previously proposed for this site had a PennDOT permit issued, actually multiple times, and they were the low traffic permits.
Yeah, we think.
And I know there's traffic, the dollar store generates far more traffic than we do, the number of traffic, counts that will go in and out of the facility. So I agree with Jim that we're gonna definitely be in that low traffic, bucket, if you will.
People can have the intersection for them.
Most likely they won't, if it's low volume.
I think the township can, if they're inclined, or if the supervisors are inclined, as part of their PennDOT thing, the township could, issue comments to PennDOT, asking them, even if it is a low volume driveway, township still has these concerns, we would like to see adequate signage or warnings or other mechanism, in place, to address this. So I think the township still has a right to provide PennDOT with feedback, regardless of the type of application.
I can also reach out to, Ken Kavanaugh, he's a resident of our township in Stratford. And Ken's, somebody that can, I think they can look at speed studies and look at, there's a possibility, I can't guarantee anything like that, but PennDOT can look at their corridors and say, 45 is too fast here, and we're going to reduce the speed limit and extend the 35 miles.
Sounds like from your
But
comment,
they
what it
actually-
should be is a drive-by lane, so almost like a center turning.
Well,
Right.
if there was a turn lane there, yeah, it would make a difference. You wouldn't feel like every car that's coming up behind you would slam into the back of you.
It's dangerous.
But I don't know where they would do that, because there's that four houses where you used to live, and the
Yeah.
property across North Cordell is a preserved property. So I'm not sure how they would
We
possibly.
have to see what their right
What's the
of way
right
is,
way?
how much right of way they have.
Is it 50 or
Because
50?
even though where I live, the house, they could move that over. I mean, there's a pretty big space of pavement on the other side of the white line there, on that side, before you get to those properties.
But unless you have a state copy all the time, that's not gonna save it.
I was gonna say, putting the 35 there would sound nice.
It's not
I
gonna save
guarantee
it.
you're not gonna care.
It's funny, I do the speed limit, I might be one of the weirdos that does in neighborhoods, but I just feel like I'm not one to go faster than the speed limit when you're getting into, more of a pedestrian like atmosphere in residential houses. But I hear you, I've seen it too.
I live in a residential development, and it's not posted as far as I tried to get it posted, but there's people that come through there, including school buses, right, that do 40, 50 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's no sidewalks there, so,
Whatever it is over
you know,
there.
if you're a pedestrian, you better just plan on jumping out of the road when some of those drivers go by. But I just don't have a lot of faith in people paying attention to that.
Sure, but we have to work within the parameters that we're given with PennDOT and the township and,
Yeah, but I also think you have to be realistic, that drivers, or at least a portion of the drivers, are not gonna pay attention to any signs or speed limits or postings, and that they don't care. They just don't care about anybody but themselves.
That's right.
I think we're just trying to convey, like, we live here, we know what happens at that intersection, and even if PennDOT doesn't want you to look at that intersection, you need to be where you're gonna be adding parents and young children to a situation that is already dangerous. So I know you
So I think
care
this-
about your,
I think overall, if PennDOT isn't like pushing required signage and stuff like that, you may want to push for permission to put in what safety measures, they'll
I would
allow.
think that the township can override what PennDOT does and ask for additional things. And I apologize before I ask this question.
Yes, Ken.
Yes, should have the answer to my question before I came before you. Does Honeybrook have its own police department?
No.
It's state police. So as I said, I will reach out to some of the friends that we have with the state police. And I would think, it's a shame that Honeybrook doesn't have its own police department, because they would pay for the police department.
Oh, we don't want to go
Just
there.
people.
We don't want to go there.
No, I get it. But I think when you have a stronger police presence, which we will ask the state police to get involved with, because we know several of them, and they've been very good to us in the past. I don't know whether you come out of that barracks down there or not.
Emerald.
And we'll-
Yeah, we wait 2 hours
We know
sometimes.
several of the troopers down there.
We wait 2 hours sometimes.
Okay, so we will talk to them as well and see what we can get from them to assist. But I think, as Jim pointed out, we're kind of stuck with, this is what's on the table and what we're allowed to do. And we're going to do everything you ask us to do. Oh, and as an aside, I drove by there a couple of weeks ago. I left my son's house, and if you look up here at night and see what happens at 8 o'clock at night. So I'm coming from Applecross up, and as you can see, we're 200 feet on the road. I was able to pull completely out of the lane of traffic and drive down to where the driveway's going to be, because there's 8 or 9 feet outside of the lane of traffic on both sides of that road. Now, I don't know whether it's just got to be restriped properly or something to that effect, but and that's where, when Jim and I have talked about, well, are we going to need an accel, decel lane? I'm thinking, for the most part, it's already there. It may not be that much more involved to clean it up, widen it a bit, so that you clearly have the ability to pull in front of the property for 100 feet before you even turn into it. And on the other side, when I left, I looped around, the same thing is there as well. You have the highway, and then you have these 8 or 9 foot, I don't know what you call them, but, you know, it's paved, it's not road, but it's not crushed stone.
Yes.
So that gets used a lot for the horse and buggies.
That's
what it does get
It's like a
used.
lane.
It does get used there a lot, horse and buggy. Numerous times I've come up there, want to make a left turn, and I tell you, it's about nerve wracking when you're sitting there, people, you know, I have nothing against what they're trying to do there at all, I support it. But that's a big danger zone right there, period.
That property drops off right where the roadway is. But if you built it up, you could probably add a little bit for it.
Yeah, I think they're just things to consider as you move forward, you know, through the
We're
process.
certainly
So-
hearing, you know, and can appreciate that the traffic issue and that relationship with Burdell Road is a paramount.
I lived on North Burdell, I was the second house in, so I can tell you once a week there were accidents.
Yeah.
And it was every week. There's somebody getting hit, somebody ending up in the field, somebody ending up in neighbor's trees, because people just blow the stop sign on South Burdell. Because they're coming flying up the hill, and then they can't stop. And they go right out into 322 traffic. So, yeah, I mean, it is a little dangerous there.
So, I mean, you've heard a lot of comments. We don't have to take any action on a sketch plan. I think they're okay to proceed to land development plans.
Yeah, take a look at the comments.
Regarding the sign permit, that's something that you can file, you know, a permit application for a sign installation on the property.
Yeah.
You know, That's something that we don't, you know, have to work with the planning commission on, right?
But
No,
I would
I would
suggest
think-
talking to the neighbor behind you and working with them, because they're his people, and, you know, they're gonna be your neighbor.
Yeah, buffering and the driveway relocation and,
The only other thing they were concerned about was the lighting, because the lighting at the, Notary and Brewery are really harsh for them at night. So they said they just
Yeah,
wanted.
we would definitely be having hours of lighting operation, you know, once the facility is closed, you know, we'd like to keep the lights to a minimum, but also the lighting plan, we're going to have, you know, we're gonna have that foot candle. I think a lot of it's probably gonna be along the building, you know, I think.
Yeah,
the lighting
they
parking
weren't
lot-
concerned about that, they were just concerned about the brightness, because this is gonna be really close to their house.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be that the parking lot lights can be turned off after a certain time.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Just
Well,
have your
we'll
security light on the
Definitely
building.
be doing that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, Jim, if you want to look up any, you know, concepts that would adjust the parking in there and shoot a modified sketch over to me, I can look at those buffers
Great.
and things like that before you guys would proceed with land development plans, and then, you know, in your conversations with PennDOT, you know, if there's anything from the township end, you know, an opportunity for them to express their just concerns about traffic flow, so PennDOT understands that it is just a safety concern there to promote, you know, clear signage and things that may be a little bit over and above a normal low-volume driveway requirement, just in terms of signage, just to protect, you know, the people going to the daycare.
Sure.
And everything, so. But besides that, I think you seem to be able to address a couple items that may need variances in there, so.
Yeah, those are off the table, we don't need to deal with those.
Keep plugging.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything else before they leave?
Okay?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
So our next item is the short-term rental.
Yeah, so this is your updated draft from our October meeting. We skipped the Penn State, and not everybody can be here. I did incorporate inspection requirements in here. That's one of the key things. You guys felt that there should be some type of inspection program. So I posted initially.
I don't have a copy of that.
No, posted input.
There's another pack up here. You got mine.
Printed everything. I don't know what they're thinking
Now everybody left. I didn't even think about it. I just signed it and every graph and results it right now.
Okay. Two key things, we added inspection requirements in there, so I posted initially as an annual registration, annual inspections, you know, at the beginning of,
This can be used by right, sorry. This can be used by right.
since it's in section B, I think that's either conditional use or special exception. A would be used by right. We said only single-family detached dwellings or an existing accessory dwelling unit, either one that exists at the effective date of the ordinance. 25-year age minimum. Occupancy limited to 2 persons per bedroom, excluding children under the age of 3. I found that in another ordinance somewhere, and that way you don't get penalized for, you know, the babies that are going to sleep in a crib or the small children. In with that, the, you know, inspection process, it needs to be basically maintained in compliance with the property maintenance code. When they register initially, they have to show that the sewage system, you know, is adequate for the proposed number of bedrooms in there. I also put as part of the annual registration and inspection, that the sewage system shall be regularly pumped and inspected as per the township sewage ordinance until that pumping requirement becomes a township-wide thing. Then I put in there that has to be pumped and inspected a minimum of every 3 years. And the inspection report pumping receipt provided to the township to help ensure that the system is being properly maintained. There was some concern expressed, you know, overuse of the septic system depending on the number of people staying there.
So question, when they do an inspection, what are they gonna be looking for? Would it be, so like when I do that breakfast inspections, I make sure like the fire extinguisher when it's expired, they have smoke alarms in the bedrooms, like
Yeah, that would
what
be.
is the requirement for the inspection? What do they have to have done?
That would be the things that they do, because those are all items listed in the property maintenance code. That's what we usually do our rental unit inspections too, in like the boroughs. Yeah, so it's cover those, and that's the same basis that we use for inspections of rental units in the different boroughs. We put in the restrictions that we had talked about, you know, no ATVs, fireworks, open burning, you know, things like that in there. I had sent this to Beth Cole to review from the solicitor end. She just sent her comments over this afternoon, so I didn't update the ordinance to them. Hers was just a little clarification where the definition of a short-term rental says a single-family detached dwelling, but we were also allowing them in the accessory dwelling units. So she gave me suggested language for that, to also clarify the 31, maximum 31-day period.
Now, how will you know that? Will there be some type of like book or something that they?
I think they have to keep records. Yeah, they have to keep a ledger that they would provide, at any given
You
time.
would have to provide that, I understand.
Yeah, upon request, we're seeing, there's a neighbor, we get a complaint, hey, the same blue Ford has been there for like 2 months now.
But he would have to be there for people to sign in. Otherwise, they don't do it if they want.
Well, I think they would have to maintain records of, when they're coming in there.
Now, what if the house is in an HOA development? Are you requiring any type of?
So, yeah, that's one of her comments, so, well, let me just get, so I don't miss her other ones. She just wants us to fully define complete cooking facilities and clarify what needs to be provided, for sanitary sewage disposal. And then 7, she said she understands the reason for wanting HOA approval. But then that puts the zoning officer in the position of having to determine if applicable. How do they determine if it's applicable?
Well, so some of
She
the
said-
HOA governing documents state that they can't have a rental.
Right, so she says, do we want to put a question on the application, is your property subject to regulation by a homeowners association, or other type of association? And then she says how it plays out administratively. So I think we can have a question on there, and then they can either provide a statement from their HOA saying,
Well, it's
we
just
don't
like an
regulate
architectural
these.
review that you won't do it without the HOA. So
Yeah,
it's-
or we don't. So, I mean, you learn over time what developments have the HOAs and, don't. So I think we can clarify that to address that. One of the other key items that had come up is we were talking about doing these in ag and RC. And then there was concerns about these going on some of the smaller properties or neighborhoods. And I asked her whether we can say, we can have a minimum lot size, but then there was concern in some of the developments, the lot sizes are over that, especially if they contain the basins or things like this. That said, we can't really just say not in a subdivision, because the subdivision is really any good division of land. She doesn't know a good defensible way to use that as an eligibility criteria for land use on one property versus the other within the same zoning district. So we may need to give a little further thought on where these are allowed and how to distinguish those items.
Well, that's different than the camps. I mean, you allow them on certain, size properties
Yeah,
in the same district.
yeah, I think doing it by property size is fine. It was a matter of, we had the discussion of, so say we allow it in properties in ag and RC over 1.5 acres or whatever. That like in Evergreen Ridge, there are some lots in there that are over 1.5 acres, not all of them. But it would still make some, in that neighborhood eligible for it.
How did you come up with an acre and a half? What?
I didn't, I figured it, I think we were talking about different,
So that, so you're right now, we currently don't restrict it in any district.
You don't rent it.
we,
Well, no, I know.
in here,
It does
yeah,
it.
1702 and 1802B is ag and RC. So we would be adding it as a use permitted by, I think B is, I'm wondering whether B is conditional use or.
So is the
Special exception.
minimum
And then-
lot size?
We said minimum lot size of at least 1.5 acres. In size, I mean, we could make that larger.
Are there any RCs that are less than an acre and a half?
I think some of the lots in
Probably not.
Evergreen Ridge are between an acre and a half. Is that what you said the other meeting?
I think it's acre and a half. and they may be like,
You think they're about an
acre and a half was, when we moved there, we were told that was the minimum there.
Okay.
But there may be one or two that's slightly smaller, but not by a significant.
Okay, so I mean, it's something, we could make it 2 acres. I just, plugged a number in there thinking we want it bigger than just an acre because you can carve off, in the ag district, you can carve off those, single lots, and those are really between 1 and 2. So you could make it 2 acres. I think you need to have 2 acres to have an accessory dwelling unit.
So with us having zoning ordinance with the borough, is
We
this-
have a joint comp plan. We don't have a joint zoning ordinance.
Well, true,
It-
but, yeah.
It's semantics,
Yes.
and our zoning ordinances are very similar, but we don't, so Heidelberg, Obsonia, Marion, and North Heidelberg, and Wormelsdorf Borough truly have a joint zoning ordinance. It is the Obsonia Borough, Wormelsdorf Borough, Heidelberg Township zoning ordinance, and then they have to have, if they want to amend anything in their ordinance, they have to have their joint planning commission get together, and then each of their municipalities has to vote, and it's this whole
Yeah.
big deal. So here, you do have a joint comp plan. Hereford and Washington Townships also have a joint comp plan, but then they each have their own individual zoning ordinance. So anything we change here in our zoning districts don't impact the borough's ordinance. And I don't think the borough has ag or RC in their,
Who determined 25 years of age?
we talked about that being the standard for renting a hotel.
It says 18-year-olds and running the house and having a party.
Yeah, I think we kept that consistent with like what the hotels typically was to try and curtail that it being used for, parties and senior week and things like that.
So if somebody's 18, who gets out of the military, can't rent a place in Huntsville because they're not 25?
Well, in most cases, they can't rent a hotel either, so,
Or rent a car.
or rent a car, yeah. It's kind of the industry standard, but subsection B, it would be a use permitted by special exception. So, any application for one of these would need to go before the zoning hearing board, neighbors would be notified. So, I mean, we,
Not if it's a special exception. Those guys
If it's a special exception, it does.
special exception is.
Conditional,
Conditional.
conditional, board of supervisors.
So, I mean, we can change that lot area, to a different minimum. I believe, let me just double check, I believe accessory dwelling units are a 2-acre minimum. Yeah, accessory dwelling units, where we allow like the separate in-law quarters and, second dwellings there, are permitted on properties containing a gross lot area of at least 2 acres. So we could, you want to make it 2 acres, you
Bump it up to
could.
2.
I would be in favor of that. I just think if you're going to a party, your acre and a half is not a whole lot of room.
Well, hopefully
We're
we're not
not
having a
gonna
party.
I know, I'm just saying. To get a group of people in, even if it's not a party.
I mean, I think our major concern that we've expressed through this process with these short-term rentals is the impact on the adjacent existing property owners in the community.
What happens if you come across one that has, like the gentleman who was here a couple months ago who had the separate accessory dwelling, but technically it's not allowable because it's a second use? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do with that?
You talking about the guy in the shed?
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't even a dwelling. So that shouldn't have been even considered as a dwelling, it was a shed.
Right, so,
But if they have something along that line,
so our ordinance would only allow them in an existing single-family dwelling or if they have an existing permitted accessory dwelling unit that has, you know, already received its approvals and meets all of the accessory dwelling unit criteria, and they can utilize that accessory dwelling unit as a short-term.
So let's say that if people
but-
are are you going to go on the internet and get a list of who is advertising these and go tell them that they have to regulate, or are you not doing anything?
That would be a township decision policy of how we want to go after those. I know for kennels,
They went out.
they do routinely check the state website for new kennels to pop up. And when they see new kennels popping up, application pending or things like that, they get notices sent to them. What their plan is for short-term rentals that may already be in existence, I don't know. That would need to be, I mean, if we're asked to enforce those, then obviously we will. And they'll either need to comply with our regulations, or if they don't, they would need to seek variances, you know, for them. So,
Do we want to incorporate, does Beth have some things that need to be incorporated into our draft?
so I think Beth has some cleanup things that I can do and clarify. I don't think it's anything necessarily substantial in terms of our regulations. Hers is a couple, you know, the clarification on the definitions, clarifying or further defining complete cooking facilities and sewage disposal. Apparently 2 of my sections sound similar, and she wants to know what my meaningful difference is. So I'll look at that. Clarifying the HOA thing. So
Do you want to get Jen in?
I can,
Add that in, clean it up one more time?
yeah, I can revise it
Take a
from,
look at it.
I
Yeah,
can
can I
revise
just,
from hers, do the 2 acres, and then does anybody have any other?
yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm reading under the registration and inspection section, and I seem to recall an earlier draft where as part of the registration process, they had to show evidence of paying occupancy tax to the county or the state. And I don't see that in
I go back up to the prior page, Susan, B3. So when they get their original permit, we require them to,
Is it just like an assessment? Is it showing that?
so this was taken care of in the other municipal ordinances, so I guess they have to register with the county the same way and pay like hotel and room taxes, like a normal hotel would. So as part of, before we issue the initial permit to be used as a short-term rental, they have to show that they're registered with the Chester County Treasurer. So as part of the registration, annual registration process, I guess we could request that they provide something from the county showing that they are, you know, in compliance and have been paying those and not just at the first time.
Right.
Okay.
I was gonna add, we stayed in an Airbnb a couple weeks ago, and I think when you talk about number 7 and number 12, owner must maintain a local contact person, and when you say provide contact information to the renter and the township, I think that information should be posted, be required to be posted in the house, because like my husband did the rental, he had all the information. He wasn't at the house half the time, like,
Okay.
I wouldn't have known who to contact if there was a problem. And
Okay.
maybe-
All right, so any of the things, same thing with the trash collection and rules.
And I think specifically the 911 address of the property is huge, because in an emergency,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know what the address is here. It should be on the refrigerator, by the front door,
Yeah,
or
so
somewhere like that.
I'll go through that list and, or make a common thing that all information here shall be posted, you know.
Yeah, I
in the
think
house.
that's more
Yeah.
safer that way.
Yeah, nope, that's fine, that's good.
Sorry about that.
Does the owner have to do any background checks on people when they come?
That's up to them.
Yeah, that would be up to the owner.
I mean, I guess, but
I
No,
highly
it
doubt
could,
it.
it could
People wouldn't.
be, it could be anybody, so that's why we're doing all this.
that's why I asked that, is how do you know whether who's gonna come in there and wreak havoc in the neighborhood, but
You don't keep going.
you don't, right?
I don't think the township could legally require that.
There is this, number 11, about keeping a detailed ledger of information, but not doing a background check.
Yeah, I think we keep the ledger so that, if there was a problem or something, we can go back to them and
History on that.
they're required to present that ledger to the town zoning officer or their designated upon request, so. All right. Susan or Erin, did you guys have anything else?
No, I think it's pretty thorough. I looked through it.
I think you took my whole list when I originally sent it to you.
I'm confused on the transient visitors. Isn't anybody that travels off considered transient visitors? Even if you're on vacation, you're still transient.
Right, so it's the difference between somebody having like a long-term rental lease, versus just coming and staying a couple days.
So shall not be allowed to make the short-term rental available for transient visitors. That means it's not short-term visitors.
Where are you reading?
The last page, number 1, top of the page. The owner shall not be allowed to make the short-term rental available for use by transient visitors.
For non-residential purposes. Keep reading.
Okay?
So the transient visitors can't come in and use it as like a reception space, a party space, event venue, meeting, run a business out of there, or things like that.
So they can't rent it for long-term then?
You can't rent it for long-term, or they can't
Okay, they can't rent it for long-term, okay.
yeah, they can't make it like, come and hold like a huge family reunion or something out there one weekend, and have 40 people there for something. So basically, it should be,
That's confusing to me for some reason. The way it's written.
well, I can take out transient visit, shall not be allowed to make the short-term rental available for non-residential purposes. There it is, such as those items. So I'll take out transit.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's transient, it's saying,
Yeah, no, that's fine. I can clean that up, to be clear. Anybody else have anything? Okay, so I will revise this with these comments and Beth's cleanup, and then we don't have another meeting till towards the end of January, so I should be able to have Beth review my changes with her thing and make sure what I send you guys back out is fully approved by her, before you guys get it at your January meeting.
Okay. Back to regular times next year. There's the farmer's breakfast in January. And we'll be before our meeting.
25th, I want to say,
23rd.
23rd? Okay, it was in the 20s. Yeah, so they're intending to keep our meeting as the fourth Thursday of every month, and then the second Thursday in November and December of the holidays. Does anybody have any issues with those? Okay.
Can't do third Thursday.
We're not doing third Thursday. It'll be the second Thursday.
Can in December, but not November.
No, we'll keep the second Thursday.
We'll go to open forums. Anyone like to speak? I'm not seeing any hands up. There's a meeting scheduled for the township. Let's get a motion to adjourn. Got a second? All in favor?
Sorry, Susan, I didn't do very well at 8 o'clock.
What? She told you your meeting was gonna be over at 8 o'clock.
No, Susan asked if it could be done at 8. Bye, but
She asked me
Oh my
if it's
God,
back
no, I'm-
and I said, no, it's just that it's just been a long week.
I get it out.
you know, I was trying to get to a pumpkin